If you want more freedom in your life, one of the fastest ways to get there is not by chasing more income, but it's actually looking at how you can reduce your expenses. But when a lot of people hear about reducing expenses and cutting back, that's exactly what they feel. They feel their life is going to be restricted. They feel they're going to have to sacrifice something and they're going to have to be going without. But that's not what this is about. When I started changing my life in my 40s, I didn't start by looking at how I can earn more. And that's probably the best way to look at it, because for a lot of us, we hit an income ceiling and therefore it's hard to try and earn more beyond covering inflationary rises. So what I did was I started to look at what my life actually cost me and where I could reduce financial pressure without reducing my quality of life, because that's the key. We spend our 20s, our 30s, and our 40s building a life that feels right for us. And we don't want to then start thinking about depriving ourselves and cutting the lifestyle that we have, reducing the freedoms that we are now afforded. It's about aligning what we want for our lives, but also about how we can get the life that we want in the future. The biggest shift for me was housing. For most of us, it's our biggest expense. And so even a small change here can have a huge impact. And so that might mean downsizing, it might mean relocating. It's certainly about rethinking how much space you actually need in your life. When I moved to a more cost-effective area in the UK, it didn't feel like I lost anything. Quite the opposite. I actually felt like I gained a lot. I gained breathing space. I gained more financial freedom. I gained a lifestyle change, actually, because I actually moved to the part of the country where I didn't feel constricted by houses all around me and being very built up. There was a lot more open space, and I realised actually that that was something that I really enjoyed. The next thing I looked at was fixed monthly costs, the things that quietly just come out of your account every month. So subscriptions, our utilities, any insurances, our phone contracts, all of those things that were coming out of our monthly pay. And I realised that I was paying for things that I didn't actually use or I didn't value. And so those small reductions soon mount up each month. The other thing was looking at what you choose to have in your life and what you've just fallen into the habit of having. Things like impulse spending, convenience spending, paying for ease instead of intention. And when I became more aware of that, I didn't feel restricted. I actually felt a little bit more like I had a bit of control over my spending. My husband and I would joke and say, is that an unauthorized purchase? Because going on to online shops and just letting our thumbs quickly press buy was something that we had got into the habit of doing without thinking about, do I actually need that item? Will I use it? Or is it just something that seems like a good idea at the time? Instead of just cutting costs, I also looked at, could I create a small, flexible income stream? Not to replace everything, but just to take a bit of pressure off, because when you combine lowering your expenses and earning even a small extra income, the gap closes much faster than you can think. And that's actually what I did. I retrained and I started working part-time as well as full-time, not to kill myself, but just to start building experience and an income stream that could potentially give me a much broader income stream in the future. The other thing that we did, and this is an important one for you, is to think about designing your life around what is enough for you. Not just staying with the status quo, not just staying with the lifestyle that you have become accustomed to, but actually thinking about, what does my enough look like? So that we don't just focus on earning and spending by default. We actually think about the lifestyle that we want, and it's by design. And we have defined what a comfortable, enjoyable life actually looks like for you, because then everything else becomes clearer. And I think that's a really important one, because for some people, actually living really simply without a lot of stuff being accumulated around them is the thing that is aligned to their values. For some people, aligning to their values is being able to travel and appreciate the finer things in life. But that comes with it a certain amount of cost. And for others, it's somewhere in the middle, having a comfortable lifestyle that is just enough to feel the benefit of a lifetime of work, but isn't going to break the bank. When you look at what your defined enough is, everything else becomes clearer, because quite often it can be less than you actually thought. If you reduce your expenses in a thoughtful way, you're not shrinking your life, you're actually creating space inside it. Space to work less, to think more clearly, to make better decisions about what is aligned to your values. As I said, for me, it wasn't about cutting back, it wasn't about deprivation. It was creating a life that felt a lot lighter and that gave me more choice. And if you've watched my previous video about reducing working hours, that was exactly where it started. So if you're starting to look at your own situation and thinking about what you could change, I'd love to know, what's one expense that you already feel you could reduce without really impacting your life? And if you're exploring the idea of creating more freedom and more flexibility in your life, then you're welcome to subscribe, because that's exactly what I share here on my channel. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.